What's up, guys?
Hey, how's it
We
going?
got another Hell in the Cell album battle here for you guys. And today we are going to be going back into the Iron Maiden world. And we are actually going to be doing the Paul Di'Anno era albums, the two albums that Paul Di'Anno did, the first two of Iron Maiden. And that is going to be the self titled and then also Killers. I wish we were doing this under better circumstances because if you guys have seen the Bruce Dickinson and Blaze Bayley Hell in the Cell that I did a couple months ago, when the new solo albums for each artist came out, uh, I said about doing a Paul Di'Anno, Blaze Bayley, and then doing those Hell in the Cells as well. So, but unfortunately, Paul Di'Anno has passed on, and it sucks. And I just want to talk about these two albums right now, and because they are very important to the Maiden history, to me as well, and also to a lot of other people out there, Maiden fans. So let us get started here. So first and foremost, we are going to be going to April. We're going to do the first album first, obviously, and then we're going to go to Killers, go in chronological order here. And then at the end, I will come up with a decision of which one I think is the better album, which it is tough as hell because when I think of the Paul Di'Anno era, these two albums, they're so alike, but not like one song sounds like another, on either of these albums. So it's very distinct, very different, but it just has that very charming feel from the early 80s. So let us jump in here to the debut album, and that is going to be self titled from April of 1980, and that is going to be the debut here. And obviously, I have the CD, but for some reason, I cannot find my case to it. So I want to have to do an X file on it and be a detective on this case because this is bothering the shit out of me now. I'm really surprised that this did not certify at any point in history. Now, obviously, this is the debut album. Not many people knew of Iron Maiden coming out of England at the time of release. So, but like even to this day, from the most updated charts that I've seen or certifications, like there is no certifications for this, and no really America did not have this album did not have any charting in America at the time of its release. So very strange. Now it did go platinum in the UK and Canada, but man, yeah, it's nothing is here for America. So which is a little disheartening because this is a great album. Like I said, both these albums are great. We are splitting hairs here when we are talking about the two Paul Di'Anno albums. And but the big difference as far as lineup goes between the two of these, I would say, well, is Adrian Smith comes in for Dennis Stratton on Killers, and obviously Dennis Stratton's here on the debut. But uh nothing I would say. I mean, if you're a fan of Adrian Smith's style and guitar work, then yes, you could probably see a little bit that I would say Killers might have a little bit more of a classic Maiden feel because of that. But man, it's so like minute to my ears anyway, because I'm a big Adrian Smith fan as well. But I think Dave Murray does a lot of great work on both these albums. So with the debut here, Steve Harris bass, great, awesome stuff. And on both albums really. But so with the track listings here, you got the first track, Prowler, awesome. You know that it's what you expect coming off for Iron Maiden, the Di'Anno era, and then you got the nice little song "Remember Tomorrow," awesome stuff there. "Running Free," one of my favorites. I dig that, like the beat to that, like the chugging beat to that song. Very good. Now going on here to the fourth track, Phantom of the Opera. I think a 7 minute, almost. I would you classify a 7 minute song as an epic? All right, we can do that. But either way, certainly of the Paul Di'Anno era, a top two song for me. It goes no further than three because the Phantom of the Opera is probably my favorite song off of this debut. It's strange. It probably is. I just absolutely love the solo, love the breakdown in the middle of the song. Paul Di'Anno sounds good. He sounds good on this album, but I think he really takes it up a notch on Killers though. When you compare the two, now that could come down to production as well, because I do think I do prefer the production on Killers than say the debut. But man, Phantom of the Opera is a great song of any era, honestly, of uh any Maiden era. It's right up there, man. Like throughout the whole catalog, I wouldn't be surprised if I put Phantom of the Opera in the top 15 or higher than that yet. So definitely one to check out off of this album if you don't know it, but it's certainly really, really good stuff there. And now you go over here to Transylvania for the fifth track, which is an instrumental. Good. Iron Maiden does really good instrumental tracks, or especially on these first two albums. So, but Transylvania is the one that is on the debut here. Fine, I'm cool with a 4 minute instrumental. Perfect for this album. And then you got Strange World, like a slower down song a little bit. Really good there on that front. Like Remember Tomorrow and Strange World certainly has special places in my heart. I think they are perfect for this album. Kind of you get a lot of different you get best of both worlds really, like the slower down stuff here from Maiden, and then you also get the faster stuff, like Prowler, Running Free, Charlotte the Harlot and such, which Charlotte the Harlot is the next track. And, moving on here, Charlotte the Harlot is fine. You got, because is it kind of like a part of that ongoing series of, 22 Acacia Avenue and such like that, and even going to Fear of the Dark's From Here to Eternity somewhat, that like that people say that is kind of a part of that ongoing series with Charlotte. So definitely decent track. And finally, with the eighth track here, we do have uh the title track, Iron Maiden. Now, good good way to end the album. No doubt about that. So I will say though, for the eight track, this is a good out. This is right up there. But the only thing I would say that I could knock it is a little bit thin on production. I would say it's not hateful. I don't I can't complain. Just splitting hairs here, and we gotta think where we're at too. We're in 1980, and well, technically recorded in '79. So cut it some slack there. For me, I'm just looking for something wrong to like kind of just go on the other side of it here with this album. And Paul sounds great. The whole band really sounds good. Even like Dennis Stratton, I think he does really good job. Because obviously we do, most of us Maiden fans do end up really loving Adrian Smith with his time in Maiden. But I think it's still like Iron Maiden didn't lose a step when they lost Dennis and then went to uh Adrian on Killers. And that's very hard to do, especially when you're young and still trying to find your footing. But I mean, you could argue that this debut album, they found their footing right away for the most part. So definitely, certainly the debut is awesome. It's one of the best debuts that there is in metal. And any band would kill to have their best album be Iron Maiden's debut, in my opinion. So definitely worth checking out, guys. And also too, like we'll talk about the cover arts here at the end. Once I say my piece musically of Killers. So without further ado, let us move on here now to a year later, 1981, and then we got Killers.
This is Parker,
and Leo from Wings of Steel,
and you're watching Krash Kourse Metal Show.
So this one here now did get a couple singles, Wrathchild, Twilight Zone, and Purgatory. So also too, with it did actually go gold in America, which is good to see. And it's just crazy to me that it hasn't done even more. Just like people going back and revisiting the old stuff once Bruce got into the band and everything, and just years, with Iron Maiden Resurgence when they did the reunion with Bruce. It's just crazy that like it's hard to believe that there isn't an Iron Maiden album that hasn't gone gold or platinum. Yeah, it's just weird to think that, because they're just one of the most popular bands there is in metal, most popular godfathers in metal. So to me, that's just a little strange. But I mean, that's the numbers I see in front of me here, so I'm just gonna go by that. But definitely with Killers, it did chart in America here in the top 200 Billboard chart at 78, which is decent. pretty good at the time for 81, I would say. And now it did chart in a lot of other places as well. So they are starting to gain traction, a really good traction. And like I said, as well, the other difference to this album, Killers, to the debut, is Martin Birch comes on as producer until I think what Fear of the Dark or so. All right, so let us jump into the track listings here. So you got Ides of March, which is like almost 2 minute instrumental intro to Wrathchild, and really cool intro, really cool lead into the album here. But when you and then it jumps right into Wrathchild, one of Paul Di'Anno and Maiden's best songs as well. I absolutely love that song. That great like riff and little guitar solo there at the beginning. It's just it puts you, it gives you exactly what this album is going to be about, and great energy as well to this song. And then here now, moving on to Murders in the Rue Morgue. One of my like favorite ones. Like this is one when I think of like Paul era. This is one that I'm like, okay, I gotta play. Like that chorus is so catchy. Really good shit there. Moving on, track number 4 here, we got Another Life. Decent. I can dig it. It's nothing amazing, but I like it, you know. And then going on here to track number 5, we have another instrumental. This is a 3 minute like a standalone instrumental. Genghis Khan. Really good. These instrumentals that Maiden does here on these first 2 albums are really good. Now, I would say I would probably take Genghis Khan's instrumental over Transylvania, but you know, both are fine in my book. But generally, I think Genghis Khan works really well in the mix of this album and where it's placed at. And then moving on to Innocent Exile. This is one that's kind of underrated for me. Like this is one that when I'm listening to Paul, I say with like Murders in the Rue Morgue, but I think even Innocent Exile is one that just people don't really talk about, that or that I hear people talk about anyway. But really good stuff there. Oh man, I just there's something to now. I understand like the why people say punkiness, because Paul Di'Anno does have a little bit of that punkiness, but I also understand Steve's somewhat view to it. Like now, when he says like there's no punk influence, now I say that's a little extreme because there is very little, at least very little. Because like I'm not the biggest punk guy, so like, but I do hear a little bit of that in here, but I think it works for me, and it sounds really good on these 2 albums. Now, would it sound really good as far as like putting Bruce into that kind of like pigeonhole him into like this punky feel? I probably not. You know, it's perfect for Paul though. They work with him here on these 2 albums as far as like the musical and the punky side. It just works. It blends really well together. So that's Innocent Exile is the last track on side 1. So now going over to side 2, you have the title track. This is another good title track. Now I would prefer this title track, Killers, over the Iron Maiden, the debut title track. So, you know, so little details like that I would like kind of look to as far as like who do I think can win when you got 2 albums that are so close together like this, that are just both great, and you're really splitting hairs to find which one is the better one. Prodigal Son is the next track, another slower mid-tempo song. I like it a lot. Purgatory, good. I can't complain. Good stuff there. Now you got Twilight Zone on here. Now this is the reissue for me, and so track number 10 is Twilight Zone. So I'm gonna just throw that in here. You know, good song. I like it. And then track number 11, we have Drifter, which is on the original album, the last track. And I really like Drifter. It's a good way. It's a great way to end the album. I like Paul Di'Anno's like last couple vocals in the song. Last couple words is just kind of like sending you off a little bit. Like, yeah, you know this is the last track when you're listening to it. So definitely. And then also too, they did do like a cover of Women in Uniform. They had I think a music video of some sort for that. And I like that. I wish that was on the album. I'm not a big cover songs guy, but I always enjoyed that. It's pretty catchy, you know, for the most part. So I just kind of wish it was on one of these albums anyway, the debut or this one. I think it would work for the most part. But yeah, so going to the cover arts here, definitely Killers is the more iconic, and I would prefer the cover art to Like this is one of the best cover arts of just metal in general, and certainly on of Iron Maiden. But there's something to be said about the bare bones look of Eddie on the first. Like that is the beginning. That is the origins of Eddie right here. Like bare bones Eddie. It less is more sometimes. And now I still, like I said, I still prefer the Killers cover art, cover of the album. But there's something to be said of the original, just bare bones look, just very as of well now, like over 40 years later, just the vintage look of it, just awesome stuff. It's good. And both these album covers really kind of like help tell the story of the album as well. Just put you in that perspective, put you in that mind frame. So I know I listened to both these albums plenty of times this week, and I'm like, I don't know if I can really make a decision. But like I said, I do enjoy the production a little bit more on Killers. I like the title track a little bit better on Killers. I think there's a little bit more catchier songs on Killers for me. There's songs that I like to visit, more on Killers than say the debut. And I would say certainly for me, I think I'm going to go Killers because I think that's where, like, you can kind of tell the debut is a debut album for the band, for Iron Maiden. And I feel like they were kind of like just starting to really find their ground as a band with Killers. Like, they brought that experience into this second album, which is Killers. And I think it sounds like a well-oiled machine at this point. I don't know if that's just the addition of Martin Birch and Adrian Smith, or is it just the experience from the rest of the band as well, or just maybe just trying to go a little more heavier metal, possibly as well. I don't know. I don't know the exact answer or formula to the answer as to why I like Killers. I mean, I just visit Killers, I think, more than I do the debut. If I'm like, oh, I'm in a mood for Paul Di'Anno stuff, I tend to grab the Killers album more than the debut. And then also too, Paul Di'Anno, he had Battlezone in the 80s as well. He had solo stuff. Even right up before he passed, he released an EP and good stuff on there as well. He also had Di'Anno, I believe. I have that album as well over here. And I to be honest, I haven't visited visit that album as much from like the early 2000s, I think it was, just Di'Anno. But from every time I listen to it, I'm like, this is just classic stuff. And Paul sounds really good on that album. Definitely. But so, not to get too far off track here, rest in peace, Paul. But I am going with Killers over the debut. But you cannot really go wrong with either one, especially if you're a fan of Paul and just Maiden in general. Just both of them, like, even when I do my rankings of like the whole Iron Maiden catalog, I put Killers and the debut as like 6 or 7, or like like side by side all the time, because I cannot really pull them apart, especially in like a ranking like that, of the catalog. And it's just, when I think of one, I automatically think of the other. To me, it just kind of feels like a double album. I don't, like Halloween, The Keeper, Part 1, Part 2, which should have been a double album, but like I could easily just listen to both these albums just side by side, and one after the other all the time. Like, I don't need just one. Just give me both of them, and they're definitely short enough, I would say. I think they're both less than 40 minutes long, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just both these albums are shorter than a lot of Maiden's new albums. So it may be both of the Paul albums over a lot of the new albums. Not saying that the new albums are bad, but the Paul albums are quick, to the point, sweet, pack a punch, everything. Good stuff there. So guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think.
Talk to me.
Or tell me what your favorite Paul Di'Anno album is, and Paul Di'Anno song as well. So like, just off the top of my head, my top 3 songs from Paul Di'Anno is Phantom of the Opera. What else we got here? Rat Child, and maybe even Enig's in Exile. But man, there's so much good stuff. And then I throw in Murders in the Rue Morgue too. It's hard to really just come up with three. And I mean, we don't have that much to choose from, honestly. So probably like 20 songs, give or take. And that just, man, yeah, it's a shame. Shout out to Paul Diano, rest in peace, man. Great stuff as well. All throughout his career, great music. So definitely, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think of these two albums. Which one is your winner? And guys, join us for some live streams here. We're starting to do live streams on Friday nights, and we love to have you here. We just want to build community in the metal community, basically now, because like the live scene certainly is struggling with that, and I think just the metal scene in general is kind of struggling with that the last couple years. And we want that's the goal of the channel: bring you the forgotten and unknown bands and just music in heavy metal, and just let's build the community back up like it was in the golden days here, like of Iron Maiden, hair metal, and thrash metal, and early days of power metal. So definitely, guys, thank you for watching the Krash Kourse Metal Show. Just click the subscribe button, party with us for a little while, join the community, and stay out of that collateral damage, guys. And if you guys enjoyed this video, check out my Iron Maiden album ranking right here.
Yeah, I wrote that. It's called I Want to Rock Your Body. And then in parentheses it says to the break of dawn.